Good evening. Elvis Presley died today. He was 42. Apparently, it was a heart attack.
Well, and there were ceremonies both private and public today in Memphis, Tennessee, where Elvis Presley was buried.
Elvis Presley is alive and ready to share the truth after 47 years of hiding. For decades, fans believed he died at age 42, but now shocking evidence suggests he may have faked it all. Strange details, like a too-heavy casket and a tombstone with his name spelled wrong, have kept people wondering. Could he have gone into hiding with help from the FBI? Tune in to find out why the king is truly back and ready to reveal everything he's been keeping hidden. The strange weight of the king's casket. You've got to admit, the whole funeral seemed odd from the start. First, there was the casket, unusually heavy, almost like it was carrying more than just him. A wax figure, maybe? And then there's his tombstone, where Elvis Aaron Presley's middle name is spelled with 2 A's. Was this a deliberate mistake, or perhaps a hidden message? Something about this just screams, don't believe everything you're told. Add in some confusing autopsy reports, ones that either don't match or took ages to come out, and we've got ourselves a classic case of let's hide the truth from everyone. Before we dig deeper, it's obvious that the truth is far more shocking than anyone ever guessed, and this revelation is just the beginning of what will truly stun you. People started to talk almost right away, and not just talk, but swear they'd seen him with their own eyes. The sightings range from him grabbing a burger at some random diner to just strolling around his old stomping grounds at Graceland. If it were only 1 or 2 instances, it might be easy to dismiss them. But no, there were hundreds, each more ridiculous, or, who knows, more believable than the last. Could he really have walked away from his fame, trading in his flashy jumpsuits for a quiet life in some small town? Who knows, but you've got to admit, the image of him munching on a burger at a diner in Kalamazoo sure has its appeal. The fun doesn't stop at burgers in small-town America either. Some people swear they've seen him at Graceland, watching visitors like a ghost in the attic. There have been reports of a figure who looks just like him, sideburns and all, peering out from a window. Blurry photos, shaky video clips, and a lot of hopeful thinking all pile up, making people wonder if the king just chose to hang around his castle instead of lying under it. For a man like him, maybe death wasn't the end, but just a way to escape the stage lights, to become a myth instead of just a memory. One of the more interesting theories links him directly with the FBI, as if things couldn't get more dramatic. The story goes that he got himself tangled in some serious business involving the government, helping them fight against dangerous groups. Apparently, the king was cozy with the feds, so much so that he might have entered witness protection to avoid getting himself and his family in real danger. Think about it. The substances crisis was getting worse, and he, Mr. All-American Hero, had supposedly been helping the feds gather info on the people behind it all. It's not too wild to think that, after all that, he might need an escape route, and maybe a fake death was the way to go. Now imagine him walking away from it all, not for money, not for fame, but for something bigger. His involvement with the FBI might not be confirmed in any official files, but the whispers are there, and for some people, that's more than enough. The idea of the king turning in his blue suede shoes for a quieter, hidden life is strangely poetic. After all, if anyone could pull off a disappearance worthy of a movie, it'd be him. The man had the charm, the resources, and apparently the right government connections to pull it off. Let's not forget Kalamazoo, Michigan, the place where a woman swore she saw him shopping for groceries. Sounds like a joke, right? Well, apparently a lot of folks there started to believe the same thing, claiming sightings left and right. Pretty soon the place became a sort of hotspot for Elvis believers. If the king wanted to live a quiet life in the Midwest, Kalamazoo might have been the perfect spot. Nothing says off the radar quite like a small-town grocery store. And then, of course, we have Pastor Bob Joyce, a man whose voice sounds eerily similar to his and whose face, let's be honest, looks like him, aged a few decades. The resemblance is uncanny, and for some, it's more than coincidence. Despite Pastor Bob insisting he's not him, people keep coming to his church, hoping that maybe, just maybe, they're in the presence of the king himself. For many, the idea that he chose a simple life, leading a church congregation, is strangely satisfying, as if he traded the stage for something even more meaningful. Could he have really left behind his life of luxury, swapping his gold records for hymnals? The thought makes you wonder. Maybe the truth isn't all that far-fetched. For some of his fans, it's enough to keep hoping, to keep looking at those grainy videos and listening to Pastor Bob's deep, familiar voice. It's like a game of Where's the King that never ends, a never-ending quest to find a glimpse of their hero in an unexpected place. It's easy to laugh off conspiracy theories, but then you remember how people really wanted him to be something bigger than life itself. He wasn't just an entertainer. He was a symbol of a time, a feeling, an era that people didn't want to let go of. Maybe in a way, they never have. Maybe that's why the idea of him slipping into the shadows, leaving behind cryptic clues, like a misspelled tombstone, still resonates with people today. The king isn't allowed to. He's too busy being a legend. After all, if his death was just a cover-up, it'd be the greatest magic trick of all time. The perfect exit for a man who lived his whole life in the spotlight, to leave everyone wondering forever. As people kept sharing stories of seeing him, strange details about his funeral and the autopsy started to raise more questions. A new life far from the stage. Let's dive deeper into the weird details surrounding his so-called death. For starters, there's the casket. Now, caskets aren't supposed to be lightweight, but his was said to be unusually heavy, even for a solid bronze coffin. The casket was estimated to weigh around 900 pounds, and it took several pallbearers to carry it. This led to the speculation that there might have been something or someone else inside. Some even claimed that a wax dummy was used in place of the real body, adding to the bizarre theories that have persisted for decades. Wax figures are often used for public viewings in the case of high-profile deaths, so the idea isn't completely far-fetched. Then there's the whole issue with his middle name. On his birth certificate, his middle name was spelled Aaron, while on his tombstone, it reads Aaron. Sure, it could have been a simple mistake or a family decision, but to the die-hard believers, it was a sign, a deliberate clue that things weren't as they seemed. Why would the family misspell his name on such an important monument? To conspiracy theorists, it's almost like he was telling his fans, don't believe what you see. It's a small but significant detail that keeps the speculation alive, fueling countless debates and discussions among fans. Moving on, let's talk about the autopsy. The autopsy report for Elvis was sealed by the family and won't be fully released until the year 2027, 50 years after his death. Why the secrecy? What could possibly be in that report that needs to be hidden for so long? The parts of the autopsy that have been made public are filled with inconsistencies. There are conflicting accounts of what was found, and even the timeline of events leading to his death seems muddled. The secrecy surrounding the autopsy has led many to believe that there's more to the story, something that the family, or perhaps even the government, doesn't want the public to know. And speaking of the government, we can't ignore the rumors about his ties to the FBI. It's well documented that he had a meeting with President Richard Nixon in 1970, during which he expressed his desire to help fight the war on substances. He was even made an honorary federal agent. Some believe that this wasn't just a ceremonial title, that he actually worked with the FBI to gather information on criminal organizations. If he was indeed involved with the FBI, it's not a stretch to think that he might have needed protection. The witness protection theory suggests that he faked his death to escape retaliation from the groups he was investigating. Imagine the king of rock and roll, not as a music legend, but as an undercover informant. It sounds like the plot of a Hollywood movie, but for some, it's the only explanation that makes sense. The sightings of him didn't just stop after his death. In fact, they seemed to increase. People claim to have seen him everywhere, from Kalamazoo, Michigan, to different parts of Europe. One of the most famous sightings occurred in 1988, when a man resembling him was seen at the Memphis International Airport. He was reportedly buying a ticket to Buenos Aires, Argentina. The witness described him as looking exactly like the king, just older, with the same distinctive sideburns and sunglasses. There are even photos from that day that show a man who looks strikingly similar to an aged version of him. Could it have really been him? Was he trying to start a new life in South America, far away from the pressures of fame? Another intriguing element in the conspiracy is the existence of a man named John Burroughs. John Burroughs was the name he used when he wanted to stay incognito, especially when checking into hotels. After his death, there were records of a John Burroughs purchasing plane tickets and making hotel reservations. The name continued to pop up in various places, leading many to believe that he was still traveling under his old alias. It's almost as if he wanted to leave a breadcrumb trail for those who were paying attention, an invitation to keep looking for him. And then there's Pastor Bob Joyce, the man who some believe is him in hiding. Pastor Bob leads a small church in Arkansas, and his physical resemblance to an older version of him is uncanny. His deep singing voice only adds to the speculation. Despite Pastor Bob's repeated denials that he is him, the rumors persist. Videos of his sermons and singing have gone viral, with people pointing out the similarities in his voice and mannerisms to those of the king. For those who want to believe that he is still alive, Pastor Bob Joyce is the perfect candidate, a man who gave up fame for a life of faith and simplicity. It's a narrative that appeals to many, him finding peace in a quiet, unassuming life after the chaos of his career. The fascination with his sightings isn't just limited to the United States. There have been reported sightings all over the world, in places like Canada, Australia, and even Japan. Fans have claimed to see him at concerts, in restaurants, and even attending tribute shows dedicated to him. The idea that he would attend a show dedicated to himself is almost too good to be true, but for some, it's just the kind of thing he would do. After all, who could resist seeing their own legacy being celebrated firsthand? His private jet, which he named the Lisa Marie, also plays a part in the conspiracy. Some believe that the jet was used to transport him out of the country on the day of his supposed death. The plane was reportedly fueled and ready to go on August 16, 1977, the day he was found unresponsive. Witnesses claim to have seen the jet take off from a private airstrip near Graceland, heading to an unknown destination. The theory goes that he was flown to a safe location, possibly to start a new life away from the public eye. The idea of the king making a grand escape in his own private jet is certainly fitting for someone of his stature. While fans around the world keep hoping he's out there somewhere, some believe the reason he might have faked his death is deeper than anyone first thought, a legend that refuses to fade away. There's also the matter of his financial situation at the time of his death. Despite his immense success, he was in financial trouble in the years leading up to his death. His spending habits were extravagant, and he was known for his generosity, often giving away cars and jewelry to friends and even strangers. Some speculate that faking his death was a way for him to escape his financial problems. By disappearing, he could leave behind the debt and the pressures of maintaining his lifestyle. It's a practical reason, albeit a drastic one, for wanting to start over. One of the more bizarre aspects of the conspiracy is the claim that he appeared as an extra in the movie Home Alone. In the 1990 film, there is a scene where Catherine O'Hara's character is arguing with an airline employee, and in the background, there is a man who looks remarkably like an older version of him. He has the same facial features, the same distinctive sideburns, and even a similar stance. The theory suggests that he couldn't resist the chance to be in a movie, even if it was just as an extra. The idea is far-fetched, but the resemblance is enough to keep the rumor alive. Another strange clue comes from his father, Vernon Presley. After his death, Vernon was responsible for handling his son's estate. In a recorded interview, Vernon once said, "Elvis didn't die. He just got tired of being Elvis." It's a cryptic statement that has fueled speculation for years. Was Vernon hinting at something more? Did he know that his son had faked his death to escape the pressures of fame? Vernon's comment has been analyzed and dissected by conspiracy theorists who believe it's yet another piece of evidence that the king is still alive. Graceland, his beloved home, has also been a focal point for those who believe he's still with us. Some visitors have claimed to see his reflection in the windows or to hear his voice late at night. The estate has become a pilgrimage site for fans, many of whom hope to catch a glimpse of the king. The idea that he might still be at Graceland watching over his home is a comforting thought for those who can't bear the idea of him being gone. It's as if his spirit is still there, keeping an eye on the place he loved most. Many folks are still captivated by him and the theories about his strange death, which really shows our need to keep legends alive forever. He wasn't simply a musician, he was a symbol of a whole era, an extraordinary person who embodied a specific time in American history. His tunes, his iconic style, and his magnetic presence have left a lasting imprint on the world. For many, accepting that a star as big as him could just disappear from the scene is too overwhelming. Instead, they choose to believe he might have found a way to escape the limelight and live quietly, away from the fame and constant scrutiny. This belief in a conspiracy speaks volumes about the enduring impact he has on his admirers. It's a way for them to keep his spirit active, to nurture the hope that maybe, just maybe, the king is still out there, living life on his own terms. Reports of him being seen in a small-town diner, a shadowy figure in an airport, or even a minister in Arkansas keep his memory alive in the most intriguing ways. His legacy continues not only through his music, but also through these persistent beliefs that he might still be amongst us. The question of whether he is still alive doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. What truly matters is that his spirit continues to spark inspiration, provide entertainment, and unite people. The conspiracy theories, supposed sightings, and passionate debates all contribute to the legend of a man who was, and possibly still is, larger than life. He may have left the physical world, but he clearly hasn't departed from our hearts. And perhaps this is exactly what he intended. To think that someone as iconic as him could just fade away and become a mere memory is difficult for many. His influence was so vast that it transcended his physical presence and entered the realm of the eternal. Fans across the world hold on to the belief that he, with all his charisma and vibrancy, found a way to step out of the spotlight and enjoy a life free from public pressure. Every rumored sighting or story shared by someone who believes they've spotted him adds another layer to his enduring mystique. These stories and theories about him living a hidden life allow his fans to feel a continuous connection to him. They serve as a comforting bridge between the past and the present, keeping his larger-than-life image well and alive in the hearts of those who adored him. Through this ongoing narrative, he remains an ever-present figure in popular culture, a permanent symbol of a time when music truly rocked the world. Is Elvis Presley's return just a wild rumor? Or is there something deeper, perhaps even a hidden agenda he's ready to reveal? Tell us your thoughts, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.